Hi there, my name's Anna Cheeseman. I'm a director and a filmmaker. I've been working on a documentary on climate change. Do you know what climate change is? You've probably seen it on TV or in person. I even was a little confused too a few years ago. That's why I joined the Gateway School Center documentarians to create a documentary on climate change. But even a few years later, this is the question that brought me here today, to continue working on my long-term project. So I understand if you're confused too. That's what I'm here for. Hi. Hi. Hi, guys. I have a ton of questions. What about us? Yeah, what about us? OAR, I bet you I have more questions than you.
No, you don't.
No,
I
I
do.
do. Stop fighting, girls. We will have plenty of time to answer all your questions later. But for now, let's get back to what I was saying. Like in rehearsal, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. This is a documentary for kids by kids. Now presenting I, You, We Can Make a Difference. Coming up next, you are going to hear from some of my friends and some climate change professionals I interviewed talking a little bit more about what climate change is. Oh, and don't worry, I'll be back later to define unfamiliar words.
Climate change is when the Earth's climate changes.
Climate change is sort of based off of global warming, which is when the Earth is getting warmer and warmer.
But climate change is important to me because we're overheating. It's a current problem that we have everywhere around the world, and it's mostly because we burn fossil fuels.
It's melting a lot of the ice, which is going to cause disasters.
Say you drive a car, the smoke that comes out, you can see it in like old trucks and stuff that goes up into the air. That helps fuel climate change.
Before we get into climate change, we should understand what climate is. And climate is basically the different types of weather systems that affect a particular place over a particular time. So climate change is when it's just that, when there's a change to those particular weather patterns.
Climate change is natural and man-made occurrences that have contributed to our climate and our temperatures rising and leading to increased sea level rise.
There could be greater amounts of snowfall, greater occurrences of hurricanes. There could be hurricanes that have stronger winds, higher rainfall, increases in storm surges like we've seen with Hurricane Sandy. It could be the opposite of that. There could be droughts. There could be increased temperatures that unfortunately dry up small patches of water, lakes, ponds, rivers. All of that could be altered because of these drastic changes in the overall climate.
We are in a warming period right now between glacial time periods. It's normal for the planet to be warmer now than it was 35,000 years ago. But the carbon dioxide and the methane and the water vapor from the burning of fossil fuels primarily are all contributing to what's called the greenhouse effect. The energy that's coming in from the sun is being absorbed by the earth, re-radiated into our atmosphere, and it can't get out because of the greenhouse gases. So the greenhouse effect does allow planetary temperatures to support life as we know it, but the greenhouse effect is out of control. And what's happening is that global temperatures are going up so fast that I don't want to call it global warming, I want to call it global overheating.
Those are the things that are happening. The planet is warming, and what causes it, I think, is overdevelopment and extraction of fossil fuel.
The planet is overheating to the extent that glaciers are melting at a much faster rate than we thought. Oceans are expanding because when you heat water, it expands, plus the increased volume from the ice going into the oceans is causing sea levels to rise.
I think that people are still debating what's causing this, but what's not debatable is the fact that sea level rise is happening. Global average temperatures are rising. So I'm not interested in people going back and forth with each other about all the causings of this, even though we have a direct impact on that. It's happening now, and we have to act now.
Can you tell me what a carbon footprint is? Yes, AR, I can. A carbon footprint is a daily impact of all your routines and activities that affect the environment. Yeah, I'm still a little confused. It's okay. Listen up while our expert Jamie Kleinberg will help explain it. You'll also hear from other professionals talking about how climate change affects our world.
Every behavior that you do that uses energy or uses gasoline contributes to this carbon footprint, which is a map of all of your behaviors. And that can be from watching TV or from using a hairdryer or using an appliance in your house, and these all lead to greenhouse gases in our atmosphere.
The riskiest effects of climate change are to our food supply. Perhaps 50 years out, or even 100 years out, one could imagine a situation in which there were, say, major droughts around the world all at the same time in major food-growing areas that could potentially throw humanity into starvation.
We have immediate concerns about extreme storms, such as Hurricane Sandy and other hurricanes occurring. And we are now in a time period where we are seeing more extinctions than we have ever seen before on humanity.
What we can say is if, say, emissions continue to grow at the present rate, then we can expect more heat waves, sea level to rise, other severe weather phenomena such as floods and hurricanes. So that's what we can say. We don't know what the future is going to bring.
My concern is that I think we have about 20, maybe 30 years to create a tipping point. In the next 20 to 30 years, we need to transition from fossil fuels to wind, solar, geothermal, and tidal. And I think we will. So that when we do that, the CO2 levels will drop in the atmosphere. The climate change will be less drastic. We'll see fewer storms, less changes in tide, and more sustainability. So my question is, are we doing everything we can to make this transition happen sooner as opposed to later? The longer we wait to make this transition, the more we're going to see storms like Hurricane Sandy. So it's something that we cannot just sit back and wait for the next ice age to cool us down. We have to act and act together.
Wow, that was very frightening. Yeah, that was so scary.
It's okay, AL.
Well, that's the effects of climate change on the planet. In fact, it got really bad during Hurricane Sandy in 2012. When I interviewed professionals, they even told me how climate change affected them personally. And it touched my heart because not only did I go through something similar, but it was also very tough hearing about it. Here, take a look.
Hurricane Sandy crashing on shore, winds now at 90 miles per hour, and this storm is so big, so vast, 60 million Americans will feel its power.
My nickname is actually Island Girl because I was born on one island, which is Sri Lanka, and then I was raised on another island, which is Singapore, and now I live in Manhattan, which is another island. And all three islands have been affected by climate change. Sri Lanka was hit by a tsunami in 2004. Singapore has extreme haze and pollution every June, and people cannot walk on the streets without a mask over their face, the way a medical surgeon would wear a mask. And schools are closed because it's just so hazardous for children to go to school, to even walk on the streets. And then, of course, Manhattan was affected by Hurricane Sandy.
I live in Oceanside on the south shore of Long Island, and my community was wiped out by Hurricane Sandy. In Island Park, which is 10 minutes from where I live, every single car in the community was flooded. Every single car. Well, my wife and I happen to live in a part of Oceanside that is about 14 inches higher than the area south of us. We did not flood. But my wife and I volunteered to go out into the community to bring food and water. And I thought I was living in a third world country. Here I was with volunteers, high school students, teachers, all community members, delivering food, hot food, and water to people in Oceanside. I was there with a megaphone screaming, "We have clean water!" And people were running out of their houses. They had no power. They had no food because their refrigerators had shut down and all the food they had to throw out. So many of the people had flooding. We were living in a war zone for a while there. And I can tell you that there are still people on Long Island and other areas in Jersey that still haven't recovered and are not back in their house yet. So yeah, it's impacted me directly, it's impacted my family, and we will never forget what we saw.
So I am a city councilman, represents Coney Island, one of the hardest hit districts that was affected by Superstorm Sandy. It was something that was very personal to me. It affected my family, my community, many neighbors and friends. I also chair the Committee on Recovery and Resiliency. So every day I deal with Sandy victims. I'm here today to say climate change is real and it's happening now. You know, my parents, when they came here from the former Soviet Union, told me they came to this country to leave their kids a better world, a better life, which they had back in the former Soviet Union. So we have a moral obligation here as a society to leave behind a world that's better and safer for the next generation.
Hurricane Sandy, that was something that really affected me personally. I was living with my parents and we lost electricity for 2 weeks, and I remember just to fall asleep at night, like doing jumping jacks to keep myself warm before bed. And luckily that happened when it was still moderate weather, but what if it was a heat wave? What if it was freezing, you know? A lot of people would have been hurt.
Climate change is important to me because everyone needs to have a healthy environment to live in and to not endanger our planet from extinction. And I think that it's really important to keep this place healthy.
I live right near the Hudson. I can see pollution in the water. Just take the winter that we had this year. It was either freezing rain, sleet, slush, all this really bad stuff. And then if you take a look around Florida, it's starting to flood. And around 20 years, they say Miami will most likely be flooded completely. And they say a lot of Florida is going to be swamp, and this places like Russia will most likely freeze, and this is going to cause things like mass migration. And this could lead to war over, crops and stuff.
And we are now in a time period where we are seeing more extinctions than we have ever seen before on humanity.
Another one is that it screws up a lot of animal patterns. That also affects us. Take the migration patterns of a dolphin, right? A dolphin's migration patterns follow a sardine. Now, say a sardine, due to hot water, doesn't migrate anywhere. That means the dolphins don't have to migrate either. That means that, dolphins are going to be staying in one spot. That means they're going to eat all the sardines. And then what happens to sardines? They start getting depopulated. And that means if they get depopulated, that means some dolphins might go extinct. That means other fish could rise up in, amounts of their species, and they could outclass other fish, and that would kill off lots of other fish. And then, the ocean's gonna get really badly hit everywhere. It's gonna kind of have like a big impact.
As global temperatures rise, the habitats of many animals like snow monkeys and snow leopards are endangered. For example, snow leopards are at a high risk of extinction. Snow monkeys' populations are decreasing due to deforestation of home whitings. Not the snow monkeys, I love them. I'm so sad. I love snow monkeys too. My favorite are the snow leopards. I'm sad about them. I know. Anna, how can we make a difference? Aw, guys, that's so kind. Well, there's a lot to be done. There's tons of people trying. Here are some of my friends that you have and haven't met yet, who are trying to make a difference already, and who are going to explain some more.
Our buildings, especially in New York City, use 75% of our energy and our resources, or even more than that. So we need to make sure that we're living in the best buildings that we possibly can. LEED tries to look at the big picture of what's important to a building. So it looks at where the building is located, what materials are used in the building, what your air quality is like, how much energy is used, and trying to make a safer and healthier environment for everyone inside. This was a plaque that was given to this school for being the first LEED Silver school in New York City. Already you guys can see that there's only a few light fixtures around, and most of the light that you're getting in this room is all coming from daylighting from the roof. And it's great that this is a school, so your business hours are during the day. You don't have to worry about lighting this place at night. Up there are shades, so that will actually limit the amount of light that comes in if there's too much. And the shades will also respond to the amount of light outside. So if there's a lot of light outside, that'll make sure that these fixtures will dim and you don't even need to use electricity. These floors are made of bamboo, and a lot of the floors that you use at home are usually like ceramic tiles or other materials that they take a lot of energy to create, and they're not so easily reused. Well, they're rapidly renewable, and they'll grow into new plants that'll take in more carbon dioxide and let out more fresh and healthy oxygen. This building has these special water fixtures that reduces the flow of the water. So you're using less every time you turn on the water. But you have a recycling program here, so that makes sure that all of the paper and plastic bottles and cans that are used here are recycled so that they can make new materials and aren't just thrown in the landfill.
I'm helping also show and teach sustainability and show it to other people, especially with the Life Straw, which is given to developing countries so they can have access to clean, safe drinking water.
So it was 3 days of training, and there were about 940 people from all over the world. And we all came together to learn more about the science of climate change and to try to get a handle on what changes are we seeing today that are a direct result of climate change.
For me, I think it's very important to educate people on what they can do.
It was an absolutely incredible experience to be with 940 other people who all feel the same way I do, who feel very strongly that the time for debate is over. The time for action is now.
Anna, how can we as kids make a difference? There are lots of ways kids can make a difference. Yeah, I need to get to work as soon as possible. Oh, you do that, AL.
So the first thing is to become informed, and that's why a documentary like yours is so important. The second thing to do is to try to help the most impoverished people on the planet who are going to be hardest hit. We have to do everything we can to improve the lives of those people who are impoverished so that they can survive the challenges that lie ahead. We need to cut back on our fossil fuels. I would love to see more roads in Manhattan that are car-free for bicycles and for walking. You've seen the bikes in Manhattan. We're seeing mass transportation. So there's a lot of things that can happen. I mean, there's already a movement now to bring very inexpensive computers to third world countries being powered by solar panels. We all rely on our technology, our smartphones and our computers, but how cool would it be if we were powering them with solar panels on the roof?
So green does not have to be expensive, and you don't need solar panels to be a good building. So there are tons of low-cost methods. You can replace old inefficient light bulbs and replace them with better light bulbs like CFLs or LEDs. There are also other ways that you can help fix up. There are cracks or gaps that you can have in your walls or around your windows, and you can just use basically tape or this like gluey substance called caulk. And if you spread that around all those cracks and gaps, then you're not wasting all of that air that you've heated or cooled inside your building that's just flowing straight out the wall.
I'm a climate justice activist, and I run a nonprofit organization that has helped double the amount of open space, stop the siting of a power plant, helped legislation get passed, and is one of the leaders of the People's Climate March.
The bottom line is, we've created a planet full of problems. Your generation is going to have to help clean it up because you want a cleaner planet in the future. And we want a cleaner planet for you in the future. So we're going to work collaboratively with you. We're not just dumping this job on you, we're going to help you. There's a lot of people out there trying to help bring on the solution for climate change, and it will happen. I'm very, very optimistic, especially when I see a group of kids like this.
It's important for people to fight for divestment, that we need to stop war and we need to stop warming, that we need to stop taking things out of the ground, that we need to go 100% renewable, and that people need to start making those demands.
And if you think about the number of students your age in this country, you are an army of scientists in the making. You have a lot of say and a lot of power. So I would encourage you to take this documentary and send it out to the world and share it with other students. Promote the concepts that you believe in through the documentary.
Do exactly what you're doing right now. Get involved. Ask questions. When you go to school, ask your history teacher, ask your science teacher about climate change. Speak to your families, your friends, your neighbors. Go to the library, do some research on this issue. See how you can get involved in the efforts to reduce contributing factors to climate change. How can we create and leave behind a world that is more sustainable, more healthy, more environmentally friendly for the next generation? It's the children, it's the teenagers. This is the world that you're inheriting. And so you have to help light the sense of urgency, ignite the fire that says we need to act right now. We can't wait 100 years. We have to act right now.
So guys, AR, AL, did you like the film? Wow, that was amazing. We loved it. I'm glad you liked it. We learned a lot, but now it's time for us to go. Bye! Bye! Kids can make a difference by the small things like turning the lights off, reusing water bottles, not using your phone when you don't need to.
Using less paper. When they go to a grocery store, they should reuse bags.
They can try as hard as they can to not leave the lights on, to try and recycle as much as they can, to get everyone they know to try and follow in their steps.
I can make a difference by not using my phone so much.
I can make a difference by riding a bike or scooter or walking to places instead of taking cars.
By trying to be outside more, being more sensitive to the area around me.
I can make a difference by turning off lights.
Not wasting water and energy.
You can make a difference by lowering your carbon footprint.
You can grow trees, ride bikes, run to places instead of taking cars, taking public transportation where it's more people in one, so you don't have to have a million cars driving in one way.
You guys can figure out ways to inform other people since you learned about climate change from this documentary, and you can take this film to other people and you can show them so then they'll be inspired by it and then they can help the world become better.
We can make a difference by working as a community. Although we need to take responsibility for our actions, and there's still lots to be done to stop climate change, and it may be a long road ahead, and things could get tough. But if we all work together, I know we can make the difference, and the journey will be unforgettable, and the world will always know that in our hearts, I, you, we made the difference. See you guys soon. Bye.